So foil is what we call a point weapon, so you hit with the tip. My name is Marc-André Leblanc, or just Marc, and I am the head coach here at the Damocles Fencing Club in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I've been fencing for around 20 years, so I've been involved with the sport pretty much all levels. I started the grassroots, I fenced all the way up to the national team. What we're going to start with today, it will be a brief introduction of all three weapons.
So part of what Soldier On does is tries to give opportunities to our members of different activities, different sports, things that will help them stay physical, something that they may not have pursued on their own.
Sport and recreation activities have played an important role in the recovery of ill and injured members of the military since World War II. It is the start of the Paralympic movement of how injured members coming off the battlefield use sport as part of their recovery. So Soldier On was adopted in 2007 by the Canadian Armed Forces after the results of Afghanistan.
We're going to talk about the equipment, right, that you'll be wearing later on. After that, we'll get into what's called our footwork. The first lessons that we'll be going through are the same that I would teach with sort of any basic group, which will be a little introduction onto the different disciplines of fencing, a little bit of history so they know the background of the weapons. You can hear it, that little click. That's about 500 grams of pressure it takes to hit to light up the machines that you see on the sides here. The modern sport that we know comes out of training for dueling in, we'll say, the 1600s, specifically in Italy, France, and Spain. The Italians had developed sort of their own way. The Spanish were the first to really codify it and write it in books, but the French were the first to take it that much further and really turn it into a sport. And we really see the evolution like that, sort of the dual evolution of dueling and sport fencing until eventually dueling gets banned and outlawed. And then sort of the push for sport fencing, which begins around the turn of the 20th century. And gets quite popular, and that's when they start to create the Fédération Internationale d'Escrime, what we call the FIE, the International Fencing Federation. As you'll see, I can bend them quite a bit, no big deal. As well for foil, the target area would be chest, sides, and back. So no legs, no arms, no head.
I really wanted to do it just because of the family history. I had my father and my uncle both participated in the Winter Games in the 70s in Quebec. And all my aunts and uncles have taken fencing. My nephews, niece have taken fencing. I just went the other way. I went military and swimming. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to lead on that tradition in our family for me.
Well, I've always been interested in, I've studied the different martial arts, and I've done sword play with katanas and stuff like that. And fencing is just another way to expand my horizon and knowledge of different weaponry.
It's always something I've been interested in as a child growing up, and I never had the opportunity to.
This is what we call a cutting weapon. So you can hit with the point as well as with the whole side of the blade. So it's quite different in terms of technique. Also for the saber, the target is from the waist up. So starting here, everything up except the hands. So head is good, arms is good, body is good, right? Some of the safety equipment that you see on me right now, I'm wearing a coach's jacket, which is a little bit different from what the participants will be wearing, but they're wearing suits made of ballistic nylon with a tensile strength of about 1,600 newtons, which basically means that they're very, very tough. And even if the blades would break, that a jagged edge of a blade, which is very rare to happen, would not go through. As well, they're wearing masks, such as this one, which are also quite strong in the front, made with a wire metal mesh, which is, again, very tough to pierce. Like in foil, based on the attacker and the defender, the referee gets to make a call as to whose point it is, back to priority, that right of way that we talked about. Okay, so that's saber. It tends to be fairly flashy. This is descended from cavalry, is what they always say, right? Which is why they say from the waist up, because you weren't allowed to hit the horse back in the day. But so for saber, it tends to be fairly fast and fairly quick. It's very hard to defend on the side of the blade. The one you guys will be doing today, which is my personal specialty, is called épée. So for épée, right away you'll notice again, it has a little point at the end. So this is your tip. For this one, it's a little bit heavier than your foil. This is 750 grams to press. Still fairly flexible blade, okay? The reason it is 750 grams is because that's how much pressure it takes to pierce skin, which back in the day of dueling, it was always to first blood, right? So you would hit, that's why they wear white as well, to get a little bit of that blood showing. As far as rules are concerned, there's the very basic that we often teach for etiquette, such as keeping your tip on the ground when you're not fencing, not pointing at anybody that you won't be fencing with, right? Make sure that people are fully suited up before you start a combat. And after that, the safety rules having to always face each other because the mask, even on the front, is very safe, right? The back, that's where you got to put your head. So there's no safety back there. So you're always facing your opponent. As soon as there's a hit, you would stop. So what I want you guys to do for now, I'll get you guys lined up down here, okay? From here, what you do is take that front foot, step out about shoulder width, or a little bit wider if you want, the goal being to have a nice solid base, okay? From there, you're gonna bend both your knees and try to keep your weight centered in the middle, okay? Fencing is a lot based on how you move, so that good base is gonna be really important. I started here, stepped out, both knees are bent, keeping the shoulders above the hips here, so we're nice and steady. That hand comes out, roughly palm up. So you want to sort of keep it off to the side. You can keep it up, you can keep it down, whatever's comfortable for you. Okay? So far, so good. The first thing I'm going to do is I'll teach you guys to step forward.
I'm hoping to learn if I can physically do this or not, to keep up with this activity. Like some of the other activities I've tried, I've learned that I can't do some and I can do some. So this is one I'd like to try to keep doing.
Yeah, you're going to lift your toes, reach with your heel, put that foot down. Once that foot comes down, back foot's going to follow for the same space between your feet as when you started. So we're going to do one step again, front foot, back foot. Nice, guys, nice.
Like I've watched it, I've seen it before, but I've actually never really done it. So I'm hoping to learn just to get better and maybe pick it up. It looks interesting.
Awesome. Yeah, one more. Try and keep that weight nice and centered. Good. To go backwards, we do the reverse. So we start with the back foot. So from the on guard, back foot goes first. Reach with the toes, front foot follows.
I'm hoping to learn the etiquette of fencing, all the do's and don'ts, and learning to be a good fencer.
When you go backwards, your front foot, does it slides back or you just take a step?
Push off this way into that step back. That's sort of how you want to think about it. So your feet are always going to sort of come off the ground. You never want to be sliding or sort of like, egoring around. Always having those knees bent, picking up the feet. So once you grab your mask, right, when you want to put it on, you can take off your face mask. You'll be a little bit more comfortable. From there, what you're going to do is pop the mask over your head, pull it down over your chin. You'll notice there's going to be a little bit of a bump. Your chin should fit inside. Well, so following our guidelines through the Provincial Association and through Canada Sport, we make sure that the gym is cleaned between every training. Everything that gets used gets washed, gets sanitized as soon as it's done. Any equipment that gets borrowed gets sequestered, and in most cases, if a fencer will borrow equipment, they get to keep it for the season. So only they use it, no one else. This will be the same thing for the guys who are using gear today. This will be essentially theirs to use for the rest of the time that they'll be fencing. As well, like I said, anything shared will get sanitized. So in case of the weapons, for example, those will stay here, but those will get sanitized. And after that, most things will be working at a distance. So we keep the face masks on for some of the spaces here. With the protocol, we are allowed to train within the group here without the face mask, but that is something that is always up to the athletes themselves to decide whether or not they want to do that. If you're holding it quite well, with your hand pretty loose, you should be able to sort of like just with your fingers, like I'm doing here, bounce your tip up and down. A lot of what you're going to be doing when you're actually using your weapon is going to be mainly from your fingers and from your hand. Okay? Only when you really hit there, you're going to be using more of your bigger muscles. So the first thing we're going to do today, okay, before you do anything else, is get you used to getting hit. Because that's going to be part of what you guys will be doing over the course of the next couple of weeks. I'll get you to stand again on this line and that line with your partner. And if you look, there is a socket in your weapon. Okay, you can just go ahead and plug the wire right in. With my mask on here, weapon in hand, the first thing I'm going to do, just to sort of get used to it, I extend my arm like this, so my hand's about shoulder height, and just move forward so I can get that blade to bend down a little bit. This is about the distance I want to hit. Fencing can improve your life in terms of getting more fit, in terms of getting more coordinated. It helps you join a community of like-minded people, right? You can make friends if that's all you're looking for. It can also help you sort of develop discipline, develop focus, develop an appreciation for hard work and dedication that you would get through most sports, but specifically in such a technical sport. Now, if you see, there's a little bit of bend in my blade. Not too much, right? I'm not trying to jam it so that the blade is in his face, but just a little bit. Fencing in itself is a very sort of precise endeavor in the terms of the actions and the techniques that you need to employ. So because of that, it takes a long time to study, to really learn and master. I've been fencing for about 20 years, and I would argue that I'm still learning every day from my fencers and from my coaches. I started at this distance. This was my extension distance. So I take maybe a small step back, maybe a little bit bigger based on the size of my lunge. From here, I'm going to reach out with my arm first, make sure that my point's going to be a little bit higher than my guard. Lunge, and recover. So get that arm out early. Ooh, hit on the arm.
In lesson one, I think the most I've learned is it is definitely the opposite of what we've been trained to do. Definitely. We were discussing it a little bit. We've been taught the very aggressive, use your whole body, stance and like come at people. This is very precise compared to what and it takes finer detail and more concentration, and it is definitely very physical.
On it. Ah. So once there's a light right, we come back. So they learned a couple skills as far as their footwork is concerned. They've learned advancing retreating, which is stepping forward, stepping back. They've learned some lunges, which are the main attacks, as well as half steps, which are sort of what one of these guys actually really well explained as deeks, to help set up your attack and your defense. As well as far as their blade work is concerned, they've learned to hit. They've learned to take the blade out of the way when they're attacking, what we call oppositions. And they've also learned those disengages, which is avoiding the blade to make sure that when they're trying to hit, they don't get caught in their opponent's blade. With my opponent, if I attack, her most logical thing to do is to stick out her arm and try to hit me, right? If we both hit at the same time, we both get a point.
My injuries from military, I have PTSD, and I also have plastic pins in my kneecap as I busted my kneecap in half. And that has caused other physical issues all the way up through your spine, and everything else is kind of messed up by that. So there's a lot of things I don't normally want to try to do. And Soldier On has kind of given me that opportunity where they're understanding. And like today, my knee froze. And my partner, who is very understanding, that my knee froze up and made sure that it was okay before we continued on, and things like that. And I've tried other sports outside of Soldier On, and it's not the same atmosphere. They expect you to go full force and do everything perfectly, and I just like the support from Soldier On that you don't have to be perfect anymore.
Soldier On can play an important role of that, identifying the sense of camaraderie, sense of identity, and avoiding a gateway to enhance domains of wellness, such as improving health, social integration, meaningful activity, and life skills.
Overall, like you're saying, that's why we're all here, part of Soldier On, because we have sustained injuries over the years. Myself, being infantry for the past 42 years, I have carried rucksacks thousands of miles. My back, my knees are sore, and probably one of the biggest ones I had a parachute accident a few years ago, and I had to have a shoulder surgery for that. So basically, I'm still sort of recovering from that. So my flexibility and stuff from other injuries is coming along, but it's nice just to get out here and do things. We're trying to stay flexible and stay motivated with people.
Like all of our events, it's about giving them an opportunity to get out with their peers, be social, that try something new. But with fencing in particular, as most of them probably talked about, it's more physical than they may have expected. But as well, there's a very big mental component to it. It's very strategic. There's a lot of thought that goes into planning out your moves for the activity. And I just thought it incorporated both the mental and physical piece of the sport would benefit our members.
As far as teaching people who may have some physical challenges or physical issues, fencing is a really great sport for that because it is an individual sport and one that's fairly expressive. It allows you to, once you understand the technique, to sort of approach it however you want. So if you're somebody with a lot of mobility, who's very fast, then you can use that as an asset in your combat. So if you're somebody who's a little bit more rooted, a little bit stronger, you can use that as well. I always sort of think of it akin to music, where once you understand the theory, you can play jazz, you can play blues, you can play rock. It's up to you and how you use your instrument. So fencing is a little bit like that as well. So you want to make sure you're hitting the right part of the blade as well to get maximum effect. Yeah, exactly. Oh, on the arm too, look at that. Getting accurate. Not bad, not bad. Well, so for people who have suffered some psychological trauma or who have had some of those issues in the past, then fencing would be a way to sort of enter into combat in a conflict-free zone, in a conflict-free way, in a very controlled environment. So it allows you to get back into sort of facing somebody without having all that sort of fear or pain or all that associated to it. So it gets you more comfortable with that again, that I would think.
From what I've seen in my life growing up around fencing, and even what I saw today, it's definitely team sport. You're working with the other members that are practicing, who are motivating you to do your best. They're supporting you when we're injured. We all know what that feels like. So it's definitely a family type thing, just like the military is.
The first thing we're going to do is salute. So salute the opponent. I think it's awesome. Personally, getting anybody into the sport is really one of the reasons I'm involved with it. I think it's a great way to sort of learn all the things I've talked about before, to get people coordinated, to get people fit, to get people linked to communities, to get them thinking about training over a long period of time, to get them thinking about dedication, all these things. And I feel like soldiers are a great fit for that. They come with already a certain amount of learned discipline. And I've seen soldiers throughout the fencing world who have competed in the World Military Games, who have gone abroad and fenced quite well even on international circuits. So I think they make a great fit, and I think it's a great way for them to stay fit beyond sort of their years as soldiers.
And Soldier Run is great. Like, they help people, all different lifestyles. There's different things, different interests. You know, as opposed to like, Soldier Run does different things: golf, volleyball, hockey. I've done hiking with Soldier On, but these are all activities that are designed to get people active and stay connected with other, military members or ex-serving members. So it's a good thing. And fencing, nothing wrong with it.
Well, this isn't my first event with Soldier On. I've done sailing and hiking with Soldier On, and I had great experiences with it. And I want to continue, hopefully, doing more events with Soldier On. It's been a great experience for me.
I think it's absolutely fabulous. I think it's the opportunities that a lot of us wouldn't normally go out and take without the support of other military members and Soldier On as a group. I probably wouldn't have. And I've tried. I did golfing and I did the kayak through Soldier On as well. And I never would have done it. I'm terrified of open water. Never would have done it. So getting me in a kayak, and I absolutely loved it. And then found out I didn't like golf.
Good. From there, the arm's going to stay straight and do a lunge. Good. So this really gets to the idea of, once I put my point forward, if I can go hit that next target quickly, then my opponent doesn't get a chance to do anything about it. So today we'll be working a little bit on refining some of the techniques they've worked on to be able to make sure that they can hone that and really understand what it is that I've taught them over the last couple of days. And finally do some more timed and realistic matches so they get a sense of what it's like to do this sport in a competitive setting. The idea really being that they come out of this 4-session understanding what the sport is, that they can talk about it, and they know sort of what it feels like. So that way, if they want to come back and experience it in the future, they know what to expect. And if ever they're asked about it, they'll be able to talk about the sport with knowledge.
Well, I've learned the basic movements with fencing. It's different what I've done in different arts, but this is like totally different. How to hold a sword, how to defend yourself, and how to attack your opponent. Those are the main things I've learned, because it's totally different from what I've done before.
Now, if you're there, you want to keep going, yeah, you're already close to that target, exactly. So again, 1, 2, not bad, not bad.
In the last few weeks, I've learned it's not a sport for almost 50-year-olds. We have learned sportsmanship, and regardless of what it sounds like, teamwork. Even though it's an individual sport, we seem to have sort of come together and looked out for each other while we were here. And it's a lot harder than it looks. That's the big one I learned.
Up, 1, 2. Exactly. Beautiful. Hand first, then the legs. Yeah, there we go. Aim a little bit higher on that second hit.
When you come in and watch them fencing, it looks so easy. It looks graceful. It looks like it doesn't hurt. And I've noticed so much pain. It's definitely a sport that takes balance, athletics, quickness. Is the speed of things has to be remarkably fast. Footwork that has to be done is crazy, and for me personally, it hurts a lot, but it's worth it in the end. So it's a demanding sport, and they really deserve more appreciation, I think.
So move a little bit and follow me. Good. As soon as you see that opening, you plant your feet, do that first hit, hop, and lunge. Just like that, perfect.
Well, for physically, I found like it's cardio, a bit of cardio, but it's also flexibility. The heavier you are, the harder it is on your knees, the lunges. I can't lunge as far as some people, but it's good. Trying to increase the flexibility. So it is physically demanding in that sense. So it's probably better if you're slender, a bit thinner. But even for the bigger guys, you don't have to lunge as far. You just stand upright and go for it.
Yeah. And then when you see the opening, hop, and then, beautiful, there we go. Well, so I think they've done fairly well, actually. I know a lot of them are coming from injuries. So it's been interesting and sort of a learning experience for me to see how to navigate that, how to build drills or exercises that still allow them to get as much as they can from the sport without letting those things be too challenging. 1, no legs yet, don't need it. You're close enough for my arm. Distance. We're close enough here. By reaching out, you should already be able to hit, and then the lunge only for the body. Exactly.
I want to keep going. I think I might keep going, or at least doing drop-ins, because it's given me something new to get myself active, I guess.
Yeah, not too far. Remember, I'll be coming forward, so you get that open target pretty easy. Up, there, lunge, good. Recover, one more.
Well, I sort of wish it could continue. Like, I'm sort of glad it's ending in a way, but now I can refocus and look at, do I want to continue, what I want to do with this? But it's also, I wish it would continue.
So yeah, what happens is if you're too close, right, then you feel like if I do something, I'm going to be able to hit you. But by staying a little bit further, you see it coming, and then you have that opening right away.
The way it seems right now, it seems like something that I'll be very interested in continuing with. So I would love to continue with it after this is all over with.
Step. Oh, yeah, back foot. Yeah, then the lunge. There we go. Very good. So really trying to spread the word about the sport and how wonderful it is, how much fun it can be, is really the goal here at the end of the day. Because the more we can do that, the more people get to interface with the sport, the more likely that we'll find those people who are looking for it. Step, good, lunge, beautiful. Fencing is a martial art where you will get much less pain than the other ones. You get to express yourself very freely and get to understand how to move your body, develop sort of all the things that people like. So develop self-esteem, develop physical control, join the community of like-minded people who are really enthusiastic, and really just have a good time. At the end of the day, it comes down to being able to play with swords, which I think sort of excites every person with their like little child at heart, you know.